Question 1. Strategic planning requires a thorough understanding of how a new IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.6 infrastructure will affect existing business operations. Which of the following approaches best ensures that potential disruptions and necessary adjustments are identified and managed proactively? Option A. Conducting a comprehensive impact assessment that analyzes technical, functional, operational, and human resource implications across all affected business units. Option B. Prioritizing the rapid deployment of the IBM Maximo V7.6 system and addressing any unforeseen issues as they arise after go-live. Option C. Relying exclusively on the IBM vendor standard implementation guidelines and assuming minimal deviation will be required. Option D. Limiting the impact assessment to the core technical configuration of the IBM Maximo V7.6 database and server infrastructure. The correct answer is A. Conducting a comprehensive impact assessment that analyzes technical, functional, operational, and human resource implications across all affected business units. Explanation: scenario analysis. Implementing a new IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.6 infrastructure, especially for a large enterprise, presents significant challenges. The core difficulty lies in accurately predicting and mitigating the potential negative consequences of such a substantial system change on existing business processes, user adoption, and overall operational efficiency. A failure to conduct a thorough impact assessment can lead to unforeseen disruptions, cost overruns, and a failure to achieve the intended benefits of the new system. This requires careful judgment to balance the desire for modernization with the need for business continuity and minimal disruption. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that systematically identifies all potential areas of the business that will be affected by the IBM Maximo V7.6 implementation. This includes evaluating changes to workflows, data migration strategies, user training needs, integration points with other systems, and potential performance implications. By proactively identifying these impacts, the implementation team can develop mitigation strategies, allocate resources effectively, and ensure a smoother transition. This aligns with best professional practices in IT project management, emphasizing risk management and stakeholder engagement. While specific regulations for IT infrastructure implementation are not detailed in the C2010-530 exam syllabus, the principle of due diligence and responsible system deployment is universally expected in professional IT practice. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to proceed with the implementation based solely on vendor recommendations, without conducting an independent, in-depth analysis of the specific organizational context. This fails to account for unique business processes, existing technical debt, and user skill sets, leading to potential incompatibilities and resistance. Ethically, this demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to act in the best interest of the organization. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize speed of deployment over a thorough impact assessment, assuming that any issues can be addressed post-implementation. This is a reactive and often costly strategy that can lead to significant operational disruptions, data integrity issues, and user dissatisfaction. It represents a failure in professional risk management and a disregard for the potential negative consequences on business operations. A third incorrect approach is to focus the impact assessment only on the technical aspects of the IBM Maximo V7.6 system, neglecting the human and process elements. This overlooks the critical role of user adoption, training, and the adaptation of existing business processes to the new system. A purely technical focus can lead to a system that is technically sound but functionally unusable or inefficient in practice, representing a failure to consider the holistic impact of the change. Professional reasoning. Professionals undertaking such an implementation should adopt a structured approach to impact assessment. This involves 1. Defining the scope of the assessment clearly, encompassing technical, functional, operational, and human factors. 2. Engaging key stakeholders from all affected departments to gather diverse perspectives and identify potential impacts. 3. Utilizing established impact assessment methodologies and tools. 4. Documenting all identified impacts, their potential severity, and proposed mitigation strategies. 5. Establishing a feedback loop to continuously monitor and reassess impacts throughout the implementation lifecycle. This systematic and inclusive process ensures that potential challenges are identified early, allowing for proactive planning and minimizing the risk of negative consequences, thereby upholding professional responsibility and ensuring project success. Question 2. Consider a scenario where an organization is planning a significant infrastructure upgrade to IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 6. The project team is eager to deploy the new system quickly to realize its benefits. Which of the following approaches to managing potential issues during this implementation is most aligned with professional best practices for infrastructure projects? Option A. Proceed with the implementation based on the team's collective experience, addressing issues as they arise during the deployment phase. Option B. Conduct a thorough risk assessment to identify, analyze, and prioritize potential threats and vulnerabilities to the implementation and ongoing operation of Maximo V7. 6. Developing mitigation strategies accordingly. Option C. Delegate the responsibility for identifying and managing risks to the end users of the Maximo system, as they are most familiar with daily operations. Option D. Focus solely on the technical configuration and data migration aspects, assuming that any operational or security concerns will be minor and manageable post-deployment. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough risk assessment to identify, analyze, and prioritize potential threats and vulnerabilities to the implementation and ongoing operation of Maximo V7. 6. Developing mitigation strategies accordingly. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the implementation of IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.6 involves significant infrastructure changes that directly impact operational continuity and data integrity. A robust risk assessment is paramount to identify potential disruptions, security vulnerabilities, and compliance issues before they materialize. The chosen approach must align with established risk management principles and any relevant regulatory frameworks governing asset management and IT infrastructure, ensuring that potential negative impacts are mitigated effectively and that the system's deployment adheres to best practices for system stability and security. The correct approach, which involves a systematic identification, analysis, and evaluation of potential risks associated with the Maximo V7.6 implementation, represents best professional practice. This aligns with general IT governance principles and the implicit requirement within any implementation project to ensure successful deployment with minimal disruption. Specifically, it ensures that potential issues like data migration errors, performance degradation, security breaches, or integration failures are proactively addressed. This methodical process allows for the development of appropriate mitigation strategies, contingency plans, and resource allocation, thereby safeguarding the organization's assets and operational efficiency. An incorrect approach that bypasses a formal risk assessment process would be professionally unacceptable. Its failure to identify and evaluate potential risks constitutes a significant ethical lapse and a breach of professional duty. It exposes the organization to unforeseen operational disruptions, financial losses due to system downtime or data corruption, and potential noncompliance with any applicable industry-specific regulations or data protection laws. For instance, neglecting to assess security risks could lead to unauthorized access or data breaches, resulting in reputational damage and legal repercussions. Similarly, failing to assess performance risks might lead to a system that cannot handle the operational load, impacting critical asset management functions. Professionals should adopt a structured decision-making process that begins with understanding the project's scope and objectives. This should be followed by a comprehensive risk identification phase, where all potential threats and vulnerabilities are brainstormed and documented. Subsequently, each identified risk must be analyzed for its likelihood and potential impact. This analysis informs the prioritization of risks, allowing for the development of targeted mitigation and response plans. Regular review and updates to the risk assessment throughout the project lifecycle are crucial to adapt to changing circumstances and ensure ongoing project success and compliance. Question 3. The investigation demonstrates that during the final stages of an IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.6 infrastructure and implementation project, a significant number of asset records have been identified with incomplete or inaccurate critical data fields, such as installation dates, manufacturer details, and warranty expiration dates. The project is facing considerable pressure to meet a strict go-live deadline, and the project manager is considering proceeding with the implementation while planning to address these data issues in a subsequent phase. What is the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Proceed with the go-live as scheduled, documenting the data discrepancies for a post-implementation cleanup effort. Option B. Delay the go-live until all identified asset data discrepancies are thoroughly investigated, corrected, and validated to ensure data integrity. Option C. Implement the system with the existing data and instruct end users to manually correct records as they encounter errors during daily operations. Option D. Escalate the data quality issue to senior management, recommending a phased go-live approach where only assets with verified data are initially deployed. The correct answer is B. Delay the go-live until all identified asset data discrepancies are thoroughly investigated, corrected, and validated to ensure data integrity. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the potential conflict between business objectives and data integrity within an IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 6. Implementation. Pressure to meet project deadlines and demonstrate immediate value can lead to shortcuts that compromise the accuracy and reliability of asset data. This requires careful judgment to balance expediency with the long-term implications of data quality. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes data validation and reconciliation before proceeding with the go-live. This aligns with best professional practices for system implementation, emphasizing the importance of accurate foundational data. In the context of IBM Maximo, accurate asset data is critical for effective maintenance planning, work order management, inventory control, and regulatory compliance. By ensuring data integrity, the implementation team upholds the system's intended functionality and prevents downstream issues that could lead to incorrect reporting, inefficient operations, and potential safety or environmental risks. This approach reflects a commitment to quality and a responsible implementation methodology, ensuring the system delivers its promised value reliably. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves proceeding with the go-live despite known data discrepancies. This is professionally unacceptable because it knowingly introduces unreliable information into a critical business system. It violates the ethical principle of competence and diligence, as the team is not delivering a system that functions as intended. From a regulatory perspective, if the asset data is used for compliance reporting, e.g., environmental, safety, or financial, inaccurate data could lead to regulatory violations and penalties. It also undermines the trust stakeholders place in the implementation team and the Maximo system itself. Another incorrect approach is to defer the data correction to a post-implementation phase without a concrete plan or commitment. While seemingly a compromise, this is still professionally unsound. It risks the identified issues being forgotten or deprioritized in the face of new operational demands. The system would be live with flawed data, potentially causing immediate operational problems and requiring more complex and costly remediation later. This approach demonstrates a lack of accountability and foresight, failing to address critical issues proactively. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such dilemmas should employ a structured decision-making process. First, clearly identify the risks associated with each potential course of action, particularly concerning data integrity and its impact on business operations and compliance. Second, consult relevant project documentation, implementation best practices, and, if applicable, any specific IBM Maximo V7. 6 guidelines or recommendations regarding data migration and validation. Third, communicate the identified risks and potential consequences transparently to project stakeholders, including management and the client. Fourth, advocate for the approach that best upholds data integrity and system reliability, even if it means adjusting timelines. This involves presenting a clear rationale based on professional standards and the long-term success of the Maximo implementation. Question 4. Upon reviewing the initial deployment phase of IBM Maximo Asset Management V7, 6, the maintenance department, a critical business unit, has expressed an urgent need for a specific customization to address immediate operational challenges in their workflow. This request, if implemented without proper evaluation, could potentially impact the performance and stability of the core Maximo system and deviate from the planned phased rollout strategy. What is the most professionally sound approach to manage this stakeholder request? Option A. Immediately implement the customization as requested by the maintenance department, given their critical role, to ensure their operational continuity and satisfaction, and address any system issues that may arise later. Option B. Proceed with the customization without formal documentation or approval, assuming that the benefits to the maintenance department outweigh any potential minor system disruptions, and inform the project manager after implementation. Option C. Conduct a thorough impact assessment of the proposed customization on the overall Maximo V7.6 system, including performance, security, and integration points. Document the findings, assess the deviation from the project plan, and present a formal recommendation to the project steering committee for approval, outlining potential risks and benefits. Option D. Inform the maintenance department that their request cannot be accommodated at this stage of the project due to the strict adherence to the original deployment plan, and advise them to submit a new request for a future phase. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough impact assessment of the proposed customization on the overall Maximo V7.6 system, including performance, security, and integration points. Document the findings, assess the deviation from the project plan, and present a formal recommendation to the project steering committee for approval, outlining potential risks and benefits. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT infrastructure projects, balancing the immediate needs of a critical business unit with the long-term strategic goals and resource constraints of the organization. The challenge lies in managing stakeholder expectations, prioritizing competing demands, and ensuring that decisions align with both operational necessities and the broader IT governance framework. The chosen approach must demonstrate an understanding of the impact on business continuity, system performance, and the overall return on investment for the IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.6 implementation. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a structured, data-driven decision-making process that involves all relevant stakeholders. This ensures that the proposed solution for the maintenance department is not only technically feasible, but also strategically aligned with the organization's objectives for Maximo V7.6. By conducting a thorough impact assessment and seeking formal approval through the established change management process, the project team upholds principles of good governance, transparency, and accountability. This aligns with the implicit regulatory and ethical expectations of responsible IT project management, which emphasize due diligence, risk mitigation, and adherence to organizational policies. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the immediate demands of the maintenance department, without considering the broader implications, would be professionally unacceptable. This failure to conduct a comprehensive impact assessment and obtain necessary approvals could lead to unforeseen system conflicts, performance degradation, increased costs, and potential noncompliance with internal IT policies or external regulations if the changes affect critical business processes. Another incorrect approach that bypasses the change management process, even with good intentions, undermines the integrity of the IT governance framework. This can create a precedent for ad hoc changes, increasing the risk of security vulnerabilities, data integrity issues, and operational instability, all of which have significant ethical and potentially regulatory ramifications. A third incorrect approach that delays the decision indefinitely without a clear plan for resolution demonstrates a lack of proactive management and stakeholder engagement, leading to frustration, potential operational disruptions, and a failure to deliver the expected benefits of the Maximo V7.6 implementation. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the problem and its scope. This involves gathering all relevant information, including technical requirements, business impact, and resource availability. Next, they should identify and engage all key stakeholders to understand their perspectives and priorities. Evaluating potential solutions against established criteria such as cost, feasibility, risk, and alignment with strategic goals is crucial. The process should then involve a formal risk assessment and the development of mitigation plans. Finally, decisions should be documented, communicated, and managed through the appropriate governance and change control processes, ensuring transparency and accountability throughout the project lifecycle. Question 5. Examination of the data shows a significant discrepancy in critical asset maintenance history records within the IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.6 system, potentially impacting regulatory compliance reporting. The operations team is urgently requesting a quick fix to restore reporting functionality before a scheduled audit. What is the most professional and compliant approach to address this data discrepancy? Option A. Immediately implement a direct database script to correct the affected records, documenting the changes retrospectively. Option B. Ignore the discrepancy for now, as the immediate priority is to ensure the audit passes and address the data issue in a future system maintenance cycle. Option C. Escalate the issue to the data governance team, initiate a formal change request, and follow the established data remediation process to identify the root cause and implement a controlled fix. Option D. Advise the operations team to manually adjust the reported figures for the upcoming audit and address the data issue after the audit is complete. The correct answer is A. Immediately implement a direct database script to correct the affected records, documenting the changes retrospectively. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the immediate need for system functionality and the long-term implications of data integrity and compliance. The stakeholder perspective is critical here, as different groups will have varying priorities and levels of understanding regarding the technical and regulatory aspects of IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 6. The challenge lies in balancing the operational demands of the business with the need to adhere to established data governance policies and potentially regulatory requirements, even if not explicitly stated in the prompt. The underlying principle of data integrity and auditability is paramount in enterprise asset management. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a structured, documented, and compliant method for addressing data discrepancies. By involving the data governance team and following established change management procedures, the organization ensures that any remediation efforts are transparent, auditable, and aligned with broader data quality standards. This proactive engagement mitigates the risk of introducing further data corruption, ensures that the root cause of the discrepancy is identified and addressed, and maintains the trust of all stakeholders in the integrity of the asset management system. This aligns with the general principles of good IT governance and data management, which are implicitly expected in any professional implementation of enterprise software. An incorrect approach that bypasses established procedures and directly manipulates data without proper authorization or documentation would represent a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Such an action could lead to an unrecoverable loss of data integrity, making it impossible to perform accurate reporting, audits, or even operational decision-making. It undermines the principle of accountability and could violate internal data governance policies. Furthermore, if the data in question has regulatory implications, e.g., related to safety, environmental compliance, or financial reporting, unauthorized data manipulation could lead to non-compliance with external regulations, resulting in penalties and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the discrepancy altogether, is also professionally unacceptable, as it allows a known issue to persist, potentially leading to cascading problems and eroding stakeholder confidence. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to uphold professional responsibility in maintaining system integrity. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the potential impact of the data discrepancy, consultation with relevant stakeholders, including IT, business units, and data governance, adherence to documented procedures for issue resolution and change management, and a commitment to maintaining data integrity and auditability throughout the process. Prioritizing a solution that is both effective in resolving the immediate issue and compliant with established governance frameworks is essential. Question 6. Performance analysis shows that the IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.6 implementation project is on schedule for a go-live within the next quarter. However, a recent internal audit identified potential gaps in how the system's planned preventive maintenance schedules and asset criticality assessments will align with specific U.S. federal environmental reporting mandates. What is the most prudent course of action to ensure regulatory compliance without significantly delaying the project? Option A. Prioritize the validation of preventive maintenance scheduling and asset criticality assessment configurations against the identified U.S. federal environmental reporting mandates, making necessary adjustments to these specific areas before go-live, while deferring less critical compliance checks to a subsequent phase. Option B. Immediately halt the project and initiate a full-scale regulatory compliance review of all Maximo v7.6 functionalities before any further implementation activities proceed. Option C. Delegate the responsibility for ensuring compliance with U.S. federal environmental reporting mandates solely to the IT implementation team, trusting their technical expertise to configure Maximo appropriately. Option D. Proceed with the go-live as planned and address any identified compliance issues through post-implementation system adjustments and manual workarounds. The correct answer is D. Proceed with the go-live as planned and address any identified compliance issues through post-implementation system adjustments and manual workarounds. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in enterprise asset management where the implementation of a new system, IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.6, must align with existing regulatory compliance requirements. The challenge lies in ensuring that the system's configuration and operational processes do not inadvertently create compliance gaps or introduce new risks. Specifically, the need to balance system functionality with the strict mandates of the relevant regulatory framework, assumed to be U.S. federal regulations for this context, given the exam's typical scope, requires careful planning, validation, and ongoing monitoring. The pressure to deliver a functional system quickly can sometimes overshadow the critical need for thorough compliance integration, making this a professionally demanding situation requiring meticulous attention to detail and a proactive approach to risk management. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review of the IBM Maximo v7.6 implementation plan against the specific requirements of applicable U.S. federal regulations, e.g., EPA, OSHA, or industry-specific regulations relevant to asset management. This includes identifying how Maximo's modules and functionalities, such as work order management, preventive maintenance scheduling, and inventory control, will support or impact compliance. The process should involve cross-functional teams, including IT operations and compliance officers, to validate that system configurations and workflows meet regulatory standards. Documentation of this validation process and the resulting compliance controls within Maximo is paramount. This approach represents best professional practice because it embeds regulatory compliance into the system's design and deployment from the outset, minimizing the risk of post-implementation remediation and potential penalties. It demonstrates a commitment to ethical business practices and responsible asset management by prioritizing adherence to legal and operational standards. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to assume that standard Maximo v7.6 configurations inherently satisfy all regulatory requirements. This is a failure of due diligence and a direct violation of the principle of regulatory compliance. It risks creating a system that operates efficiently but is non-compliant, leading to potential fines, operational disruptions, and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach is to defer compliance validation until after the system is fully deployed. This reactive stance is professionally unsound as it significantly increases the cost and complexity of remediation. It also exposes the organization to compliance breaches during the interim period, which is ethically and legally unacceptable. A third incorrect approach is to focus solely on technical implementation without engaging relevant compliance stakeholders. This siloed approach neglects the critical business context and regulatory oversight necessary for a compliant system, leading to a disconnect between technical capabilities and legal obligations. Professional reasoning. Professionals faced with this situation should adopt a risk-based approach. The decision-making process should begin with a thorough understanding of the applicable regulatory landscape. This understanding should then be mapped directly to the planned IBM Maximo v7.6 implementation. Key steps include: 1. Regulatory identification. Clearly define all relevant U.S. federal regulations impacting asset management. 2. Gap analysis. Compare the capabilities and plan usage of Maximo v7.6 against these regulatory requirements. 3. Control design. Design system configurations, workflows, and user roles within Maximo to meet identified compliance needs. 4. Validation and testing. Rigorously test the implemented controls to ensure they function as intended and achieve compliance objectives. 5. Documentation. Maintain comprehensive records of the compliance assessment, design decisions, and validation results. 6. Ongoing monitoring. Establish processes for continuous monitoring and auditing of Maximo's compliance posture. This structured approach ensures that regulatory compliance is an integral part of the implementation lifecycle, rather than an afterthought. Question 7. The evaluation methodology shows a systematic process for identifying, analyzing, and prioritizing potential risks associated with the IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 6. Infrastructure and implementation. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional best practices for risk assessment in this context? Option A. Rely solely on automated scanning tools to identify all potential vulnerabilities, assuming that any identified issue is a high-priority risk requiring immediate mitigation. Option B. Conduct a superficial review of common IT infrastructure risks without specific consideration for the unique aspects of the Maximo V7. 6. Deployment or its integrations. Option C. Begin with a broad identification of potential risks across all project phases, followed by qualitative analysis to assess likelihood and impact, and then quantitative analysis for high-priority risks involving key stakeholders throughout the process. Option D. Perform an extremely detailed, granular risk assessment of every minor technical component, regardless of its potential business impact, to ensure no detail is overlooked. The correct answer is C. Begin with a broad identification of potential risks across all project phases, followed by qualitative analysis to assess likelihood and impact, and then quantitative analysis for high-priority risks involving key stakeholders throughout the process. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the need for comprehensive risk assessment with the practical constraints of a large-scale IBM Maximo V7. 6. Implementation. The challenge lies in identifying and prioritizing risks that could impact the system's infrastructure and implementation success, ensuring compliance with relevant regulations and internal policies without becoming bogged down in an exhaustive, unmanageable list. The chosen approach must be systematic, scalable, and aligned with the project's objectives and the organization's risk appetite. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it focuses on a structured, phased methodology that begins with broad identification and then progressively refines the risk register through qualitative and quantitative analysis. This aligns with standard project management and IT governance frameworks, which emphasize a proactive and iterative approach to risk management. By involving stakeholders and leveraging historical data, this method ensures that the most significant risks are identified, understood, and addressed appropriately, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the Maximo V7. 6. Infrastructure and its implementation. This systematic process helps in making informed decisions about resource allocation for mitigation strategies and ensures that the project remains aligned with business objectives and regulatory compliance. An incorrect approach that relies solely on a superficial review of known common IT risks without specific context to the Maximo V7. 6. Implementation would be professionally unacceptable. This fails to account for unique vulnerabilities or opportunities presented by the specific configuration, integrations, and business processes being managed by Maximo. It also risks overlooking critical risks that might not be common, but are highly impactful in this particular deployment. Ethically, this approach could lead to a false sense of security, potentially exposing the organization to significant operational disruptions or data breaches. Another incorrect approach that involves an overly granular, detailed risk assessment of every minor technical component without regard for potential business impact would also be professionally unsound. This approach is inefficient and can lead to analysis paralysis, where resources are consumed on low-priority risks, diverting attention from more critical threats. It fails to align risk management efforts with business value and strategic objectives, which is a core tenet of effective IT governance. This can also lead to a bloated risk register that is difficult to manage and prioritize, ultimately diminishing the effectiveness of the risk management program. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Defining the scope and objectives of the risk assessment in alignment with the project's goals. 2. Establishing clear criteria for risk identification, analysis, and prioritization, considering both likelihood and impact. 3. Engaging relevant stakeholders from IT business units and compliance to ensure a comprehensive perspective. 4. Employing a phased approach, starting with broad identification and progressively deepening the analysis for higher priority risks. 5. Documenting all identified risks, their potential impact, and proposed mitigation strategies. 6. Regularly reviewing and updating the risk register throughout the project lifecycle. Question 8. Analysis of the implementation strategy for data capture within IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 6. Considering the need to satisfy stringent regulatory audit requirements while ensuring operational efficiency and user adoption, what approach best balances these competing demands? Option A. Implement a comprehensive, all-encompassing data capture strategy for all asset-related activities from the initial go-live, regardless of immediate regulatory necessity or potential impact on user workflow and system performance. Option B. Implement data capture solely based on the most frequently requested features by end users, ensuring a user-friendly interface even if it means overlooking certain regulatory audit trail requirements. Option C. Defer all non-essential data capture requirements to a later phase, focusing solely on immediate operational ease and user convenience during the initial implementation of IBM Maximo. Option D. Prioritize the capture of data points directly mandated by relevant regulations and critical for audit trails in the initial deployment, with a plan for phased introduction of additional data capture based on user feedback and operational impact assessments. The correct answer is A. Implement a comprehensive, all-encompassing data capture strategy for all asset-related activities from the initial go-live, regardless of immediate regulatory necessity or potential impact on user workflow and system performance. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in enterprise asset management implementations, balancing the need for robust data integrity and auditability with the practical demands of user adoption and system performance. The core tension lies in ensuring that all asset-related activities are accurately recorded and auditable, as required by regulatory frameworks, while avoiding excessive data capture that could hinder operational efficiency or lead to user frustration. The professional challenge is to implement a solution that meets both compliance and usability requirements without compromising either. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased implementation of data capture requirements, prioritizing critical audit trails and regulatory mandates first. This aligns with best practices in regulatory compliance and system implementation. By focusing on essential data points for auditability and compliance, e.g., critical maintenance events, safety-related repairs, regulatory inspections, the organization ensures that its core regulatory obligations are met from the outset. Subsequent phases can then introduce less critical data capture, allowing for user feedback, performance monitoring, and iterative refinement. This approach demonstrates a commitment to regulatory adherence by establishing a baseline of compliance, while also acknowledging the importance of user experience and system scalability. It reflects a pragmatic understanding of how to integrate compliance into a dynamic operational environment. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a comprehensive, all-encompassing data capture strategy from day one without considering user impact or system performance is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach, while seemingly thorough, can lead to overwhelming users with data entry requirements, resulting in incomplete or inaccurate data, which undermines the very auditability and compliance it aims to achieve. It also risks system performance degradation, making the system unusable and thus failing to meet operational needs. Furthermore, it demonstrates a lack of foresight regarding change management and user adoption, which are critical for the long-term success of any enterprise system, including IBM Maximo. Another incorrect approach is to defer all data capture requirements to a later stage, prioritizing immediate operational ease over compliance. This is a direct violation of regulatory frameworks that mandate accurate record-keeping for asset management. Such a delay creates a significant compliance risk, leaving the organization vulnerable to audits, penalties, and reputational damage. It also means that critical historical data, essential for trend analysis, predictive maintenance, and informed decision-making, will be missing or incomplete, hindering the overall effectiveness of the asset management program. A third incorrect approach is to implement data capture based solely on user requests without a clear link to regulatory requirements or business objectives. While user feedback is important, prioritizing it over compliance mandates can lead to a system that is easy to use but fails to meet legal and regulatory obligations. This can result in gaps in audit trails, non-compliance with industry-specific regulations, and an inability to demonstrate due diligence during audits signifies a failure to understand the fundamental purpose of an asset management system in the context of regulatory oversight. Professional reasoning. Professionals faced with this situation should employ a risk-based approach, guided by the specific regulatory landscape applicable to their industry and jurisdiction. The decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying all relevant regulatory requirements and audit mandates pertaining to asset management. 2. Assessing the criticality of each data point for compliance and operational effectiveness. 3. Prioritizing data capture based on this criticality, starting with the most essential elements for auditability and regulatory adherence. 4. Engaging stakeholders, including end users and compliance officers, to gather input and ensure buy-in. 5. Planning for iterative implementation and continuous improvement, allowing for adjustments based on user feedback and system performance. This structured approach ensures that regulatory compliance is embedded from the outset, while also fostering user adoption and system sustainability. Question 9. Market research demonstrates that organizations are increasingly reliant on robust asset management systems for operational efficiency and regulatory compliance. A large utility company is implementing IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 6. Infrastructure and implementation to manage its critical infrastructure assets. The project is under significant time pressure to go live before the upcoming peak operational season. The implementation team has identified several potential security configurations and infrastructure hardening steps that are recommended by IBM best practices and are also critical for meeting industry-specific regulatory requirements. However, to accelerate the deployment, there is a proposal to defer the full implementation and validation of these security measures until after the initial go-live, focusing only on core functional aspects. Which of the following approaches best balances the need for timely deployment with the imperative of regulatory compliance and infrastructure security? Option A. Implement all critical security configurations and infrastructure hardening steps as part of the initial deployment, even if it requires a slight adjustment to the go-live timeline. Option B. Defer the implementation and validation of all recommended security configurations and infrastructure hardening steps until after the initial go-live, prioritizing functional readiness. Option C. Implement the core functional aspects of Maximo V7. 6. And conduct a rapid, post-implementation security review to address any identified vulnerabilities. Option D. Implement only those security configurations that are absolutely essential for basic system operation, and postpone all other hardening and validation until post-go-live. The correct answer is A. Implement all critical security configurations and infrastructure hardening steps as part of the initial deployment, even if it requires a slight adjustment to the go-live timeline. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid deployment of a critical system like IBM Maximo and the imperative to adhere to established IT governance and security protocols. The pressure to deliver a functional asset management system quickly, especially in a regulated industry where compliance is paramount, can lead to shortcuts that compromise long-term stability, security, and auditability. Careful judgment is required to balance business needs with the non-negotiable requirements of regulatory compliance and sound IT infrastructure management. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a structured, phased implementation that incorporates security and compliance from the outset. This aligns with the principles of secure system development and deployment, ensuring that the Maximo V7.6 infrastructure is not only functional, but also robust, auditable, and compliant with relevant regulations. By conducting thorough security assessments, validating configurations against compliance checklists, and involving relevant stakeholders early, the implementation team mitigates risks proactively. This proactive stance is crucial for maintaining data integrity, preventing unauthorized access, and demonstrating due diligence to regulatory bodies. An incorrect approach that bypasses formal change control and security validation processes would represent a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Such an approach disregards the established governance framework designed to protect sensitive asset data and ensure system integrity. Specifically, it violates principles of data security and privacy, potentially exposing the organization to breaches and non-compliance penalties. Furthermore, it undermines the audit trail, making it difficult to demonstrate adherence to regulatory requirements during an audit. This lack of documentation and formal approval also creates an ethical lapse by circumventing established procedures designed for accountability and risk management. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on functional requirements without considering the underlying infrastructure's security posture is also professionally unacceptable. This oversight can lead to vulnerabilities that are exploited, compromising the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of asset data. From a regulatory perspective, this failure to implement adequate security controls can result in significant fines and reputational damage. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of diligence in protecting organizational assets and stakeholder information. The professional reasoning process for making decisions in such situations should involve a risk-based assessment. This means identifying potential risks associated with each proposed action, evaluating their likelihood and impact, and then selecting the option that best mitigates those risks while still meeting business objectives. It requires clear communication with stakeholders about the trade-offs involved and a commitment to following established IT governance policies and regulatory mandates. Prioritizing a thorough understanding of the regulatory landscape and integrating compliance checks throughout the project lifecycle are essential components of sound professional judgment. Question 10. Benchmark analysis indicates that a critical upgrade of the IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.6 infrastructure is scheduled, but operational teams have raised significant concerns regarding potential data migration issues and the impact on their daily workflows during the transition. The IT department is pushing for an immediate upgrade to leverage new features and security patches. What is the most professional and compliant approach to manage this situation? Option A. Implement the upgrade immediately for the IT department's infrastructure and then roll it out to operational teams, providing them with minimal training and support during the transition. Option B. Initiate a phased upgrade process, starting with a pilot group of users. After conducting thorough data migration testing and obtaining formal sign-off from all affected operational departments on the testing results and rollback plan. Option C. Postpone the upgrade indefinitely until all operational concerns can be fully addressed, potentially delaying critical security updates and new feature adoption. Option D. Proceed with the upgrade as planned by the IT department, assuming operational teams will adapt to any minor disruptions and address data issues post-implementation. The correct answer is B. Initiate a phased upgrade process, starting with a pilot group of users, after conducting thorough data migration testing and obtaining formal sign-off from all affected operational departments on the testing results and rollback plan. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT asset management, balancing the immediate needs of operational teams with the long-term strategic goals of the organization, particularly concerning system upgrades and data integrity. The challenge lies in the conflicting priorities and the potential impact on business continuity if either side's concerns are disregarded. The project manager must navigate these competing interests while adhering to IBM Maximo V7.6 implementation best practices and any relevant regulatory frameworks that govern data handling and system change management. The need for a robust change management process is paramount to ensure that all stakeholders are informed and that potential risks are mitigated. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a structured, collaborative process that prioritizes risk assessment and stakeholder alignment. This aligns with best practices in IT project management, and specifically within the context of implementing or upgrading an enterprise asset management system like IBM Maximo. By engaging all affected departments, conducting a thorough impact analysis, and developing a phased rollout plan with clear rollback procedures, the project manager demonstrates due diligence. This approach ensures that the upgrade proceeds with minimal disruption to operations, addresses data integrity concerns proactively, and maintains stakeholder confidence. It also implicitly supports regulatory compliance by ensuring that system changes are managed in a controlled and documented manner, which is often a requirement for audit trails and data governance. Incorrect approaches analysis. Proceeding with the upgrade without comprehensive testing and stakeholder sign-off from all affected departments represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This bypasses critical change control procedures, which are often mandated by internal IT governance policies, and can be indirectly influenced by external regulations concerning data accuracy and system reliability. It creates an unacceptable risk of operational disruption and data corruption. Implementing the upgrade solely based on the IT department's timeline, without adequately addressing the operational team's concerns about data migration and testing, is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of the system's business impact and can lead to significant operational downtime, financial losses, and reputational damage. Ethically, it fails to uphold the responsibility to ensure the system effectively serves all business functions. Ignoring the operational team's concerns and proceeding with the upgrade as planned, with the assumption that they will adapt, is a direct violation of professional responsibility. This approach disregards the potential for critical errors and data loss, which could have severe financial and regulatory consequences. It also undermines trust and collaboration within the organization. Professional reasoning. Professionals in IT asset management and implementation must adopt a risk-based, stakeholder-centric approach. This involves 1. Identifying all relevant stakeholders and understanding their needs and concerns. 2. Conducting thorough impact assessments for any proposed changes. 3. Developing comprehensive testing and validation strategies. 4. Establishing clear communication channels and obtaining formal sign-offs. 5. Implementing robust change management and rollback plans. 6. Adhering to all applicable internal policies and external regulatory requirements related to data management, system integrity, and operational continuity. Question 11. Research into the best practice for responding to a critical IBM Maximo asset management V7.6 infrastructure failure that has caused a complete system outage, considering the need for rapid restoration of service while adhering to established IT governance and risk management principles. Option A. Implement a phased rollback to the last known stable configuration, followed by a detailed root cause analysis and a plan for permanent remediation. Option B. Immediately attempt a complex in-place hotfix to address the suspected cause, bypassing standard testing procedures to expedite service restoration. Option C. Restore the entire Maximo database and application server from the most recent backup, regardless of the potential data loss incurred since that backup. Option D. Restart the affected Maximo services and servers without further investigation, assuming the issue was transient. The correct answer is A. Implement a phased rollback to the last known stable configuration, followed by a detailed root cause analysis and a plan for permanent remediation. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT infrastructure management, balancing the immediate need for system availability with the long-term implications of technical debt and security vulnerabilities. The professional challenge lies in making a decision that is not only technically sound, but also aligns with organizational policies, regulatory compliance, and risk management principles. The pressure to restore service quickly can often overshadow the need for thorough assessment and planning, leading to suboptimal outcomes. The correct approach, which involves a phased rollback with thorough validation and documentation, represents best professional practice because it prioritizes system integrity and data security. This method minimizes the risk of introducing new issues or exacerbating existing ones by systematically reverting to a known stable state. It also ensures that the root cause of the failure is identified and addressed, preventing recurrence. From a regulatory and compliance perspective, this methodical approach supports auditability and demonstrates due diligence in managing critical IT systems, which is crucial for maintaining operational resilience and meeting any applicable industry-specific mandates related to system uptime and data protection. An incorrect approach that bypasses standard rollback procedures and attempts an immediate hotfix without comprehensive testing would be professionally unacceptable. This is because it significantly increases the risk of further system instability, data corruption, or security breaches. Such an action would likely violate internal IT governance policies and could lead to non-compliance with data privacy regulations if sensitive information is compromised. Another incorrect approach, which is to simply restart the system without investigating the cause, fails to address the underlying problem, leaving the system vulnerable to repeated failures and potentially masking critical security vulnerabilities. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the long-term health and security of the IT infrastructure, which is a failure in professional responsibility and could have severe regulatory consequences if it leads to a breach or significant service disruption. The professional reasoning process for such situations should involve a structured incident response framework. This includes immediate containment of the issue, followed by a thorough assessment of the impact and root cause. Decisions regarding remediation should be made based on a risk-benefit analysis, considering factors such as the criticality of the affected system, the potential impact of downtime, the complexity of the proposed solution, and the available resources. Documentation at every stage is paramount for post-incident review, knowledge sharing, and audit purposes. Collaboration with relevant stakeholders, including business owners and security teams, is also essential to ensure that the chosen solution aligns with overall business objectives and risk appetite. Question 12. Risk assessment procedures indicate that a proposed optimization within IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.6, aimed at streamlining work order approvals, could significantly alter existing data entry protocols. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional best practices for implementing such a change? Option A. Prioritize the optimization based on the perceived technical sophistication of the new feature, without extensive validation of its impact on current operational workflows or data governance policies. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment involving key stakeholders from operations, IT, and compliance to evaluate the proposed changes on data integrity, workflow, and regulatory adherence before proceeding with a phased pilot implementation. Option C. Implement the optimization immediately across all departments to realize the efficiency gains as quickly as possible, addressing any data issues that arise post-implementation. Option D. Proceed with the optimization by leveraging the new feature's default settings, assuming it will inherently improve efficiency and data quality based on vendor claims. Correct answer is D. Proceed with the optimization by leveraging the new feature's default settings, assuming it will inherently improve efficiency and data quality based on vendor claims. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in implementing process optimization within IBM Maximo. The core difficulty lies in balancing the desire for efficiency gains with the need to maintain data integrity and compliance with established operational procedures. Organizations often have legacy processes that, while potentially inefficient, are deeply embedded in their workflows and may have regulatory or contractual implications. Introducing changes without thorough consideration of these downstream impacts can lead to operational disruptions, data inaccuracies, and potential noncompliance, which are significant professional risks. The challenge is to identify and implement optimizations that demonstrably improve outcomes without compromising existing standards or introducing new vulnerabilities. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven evaluation of proposed process changes. This begins with a clear definition of the optimization goals, such as reducing cycle times, improving resource allocation, or enhancing data accuracy. Crucially, it requires a comprehensive impact assessment that considers how the proposed changes will affect existing workflows, data integrity, user roles, and any regulatory or contractual obligations tied to current processes. This assessment should involve key stakeholders from relevant departments, e.g., operations, IT, compliance, to gather diverse perspectives and ensure all potential ramifications are understood. The implementation should then follow a phased approach, with pilot testing and rigorous validation before a full rollout. This methodology ensures that optimizations are effective, sustainable, and compliant, representing best professional practice by prioritizing risk mitigation and evidence-based decision-making. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing optimizations based solely on anecdotal evidence or the perceived efficiency of a new feature without a thorough impact assessment is professionally unacceptable. This approach risks introducing unintended consequences, such as data corruption or workflow breakdowns, which could lead to operational failures and potential regulatory breaches if the affected processes are subject to oversight. Adopting a new process optimization without involving key stakeholders from affected departments is also a failure. This oversight can lead to the implementation of solutions that do not align with actual operational needs or that create significant user resistance, thereby undermining the intended benefits and potentially causing compliance issues if the new process deviates from established standards without proper authorization or validation. Relying on vendor-provided default configurations for process optimization, without understanding their specific implications for the organization's unique operational environment and regulatory landscape is another professionally unsound practice. This can lead to a system that is not optimally configured for the business, potentially introducing inefficiencies or, more critically, failing to meet specific compliance requirements that necessitate tailored configurations. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach process optimization in IBM Maximo with a structured, risk-aware methodology. This involves 1. Clearly defining the business problem or opportunity that optimization aims to address. 2. Conducting a thorough impact analysis, considering technical, operational, and regulatory aspects. 3. Engaging all relevant stakeholders to ensure buy-in and capture critical insights. 4. Developing a phased implementation plan with clear success metrics and rollback strategies. 5. Rigorously testing and validating the optimized process before full deployment. 6. Establishing ongoing monitoring and feedback mechanisms to ensure sustained benefits and identify further opportunities for improvement. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, risks are managed, and the implemented solutions deliver tangible, compliant value. Question 13. Process analysis reveals that a critical asset maintenance workflow within IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.6 is experiencing significant delays, impacting operational efficiency. The delays appear to be intermittent and are not tied to specific user actions, but rather to the overall system load during peak operational hours. The IT infrastructure team is tasked with identifying and resolving the bottleneck. Which of the following diagnostic approaches is most likely to lead to an effective and sustainable resolution while adhering to best practices for system stability and operational continuity? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive performance baseline analysis of the Maximo v7.6 environment, correlating system metrics, CPU, memory, disk I/O, network traffic, with application-level logs and transaction times for the affected workflow. Option B. Focus solely on optimizing the database queries associated with the asset maintenance module, as database performance is often a bottleneck in complex applications. Option C. Immediately increase the allocated memory and CPU resources for the Maximo application server, assuming resource contention is the primary cause. Option D. Roll back recent configuration changes made to the Maximo application server and related middleware, as these are the most probable culprits for performance degradation. Correct answer is C. Immediately increase the allocated memory and CPU resources for the Maximo application server, assuming resource contention is the primary cause. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT infrastructure management where a critical business process, reliant on IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.6, is experiencing performance degradation. The challenge lies in identifying the root cause of the performance issue within a complex system, balancing the need for rapid resolution with the imperative to maintain system integrity and compliance with operational guidelines. The pressure to restore service quickly can lead to hasty decisions that might overlook potential long-term consequences or regulatory implications. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation that prioritizes understanding the impact on the business process and then methodically diagnosing the technical causes within the Maximo v7.6 environment. This aligns with best professional practices by ensuring that solutions are targeted, effective, and do not introduce new risks. It also implicitly adheres to operational guidelines that typically mandate structured problem-solving and change management to maintain system stability and data integrity. An incorrect approach might involve immediately implementing broad, unverified changes to the Maximo configuration or underlying infrastructure without a clear understanding of the cause. This could lead to unintended consequences, such as data corruption, further performance degradation, or security vulnerabilities, all of which could have regulatory or compliance ramifications if they impact the availability or integrity of critical asset management data. Another incorrect approach could be to focus solely on a single component without considering its interaction with other parts of the Maximo system or the broader IT ecosystem, potentially missing the true root cause and leading to a recurrence of the issue. Professionals should employ a structured problem-solving methodology, such as ITIL incident management and problem management processes, to diagnose and resolve issues. This involves clear documentation, impact assessment, root cause analysis, and controlled implementation of solutions, ensuring that all actions are traceable and justifiable. Question 14. Which approach would be most effective in conducting an impact assessment for an upcoming IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.6 infrastructure upgrade, considering potential disruptions to existing asset management workflows and data integrity? Option A. A comprehensive assessment involving detailed analysis of technical dependencies, business process mapping, user workflow evaluation, data migration strategies, and stakeholder consultation to identify and mitigate potential risks. Option B. A user-centric survey conducted after the upgrade to gather feedback on any issues encountered during daily operations. Option C. An assumption-based evaluation relying on past upgrade experiences without specific analysis of the current environment's unique configurations and integrations. Option D. A rapid technical review focused solely on server specifications and database compatibility to ensure the upgrade can be technically deployed. Correct answer is A. A comprehensive assessment involving detailed analysis of technical dependencies, business process mapping, user workflow evaluation, data migration strategies, and stakeholder consultation to identify and mitigate potential risks. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of assessing the impact of a significant system upgrade on an established IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.6 infrastructure. The challenge lies in balancing the potential benefits of the upgrade with the risks of disruption, data integrity issues, and user adoption challenges, all within the context of maintaining operational continuity and compliance with relevant industry standards and potential regulatory requirements. Though specific regulations are not detailed in the exam syllabus, the principle of due diligence and risk management is paramount. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the impact assessment is comprehensive, accurate, and leads to informed decision-making. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it systematically identifies, analyzes, and plans for potential impacts across all critical areas of the Maximo system and its integration points. This aligns with the principles of robust IT project management and risk mitigation, ensuring that potential issues are addressed proactively rather than reactively. By involving stakeholders, documenting findings, and developing mitigation strategies, it fosters transparency, accountability, and a higher likelihood of a successful implementation with minimal disruption. This proactive and structured method is essential for maintaining the integrity and reliability of an asset management system, which is critical for operational efficiency and potentially for regulatory compliance in many industries. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on technical aspects without considering business processes or user impact would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a lack of holistic understanding of how Maximo functions within the broader organizational context. It risks overlooking critical dependencies, workflow disruptions, and user resistance, which can lead to project delays, increased costs, and ultimately, a system that does not meet business needs. Such an approach could also lead to data corruption or loss if integration points or data migration are not thoroughly assessed for their impact. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over thoroughness would also be professionally unacceptable. Rushing through an impact assessment, particularly for a system as integral as Maximo, increases the likelihood of overlooking significant risks. This can result in unforeseen problems arising post-implementation, leading to costly emergency fixes, extended downtime, and potential reputational damage. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the potential consequences of a poorly planned upgrade. A third incorrect approach that relies on assumptions without validation will be professionally unsound. Assumptions, if not rigorously tested and verified, can lead to flawed impact assessments. This can result in inadequate resource allocation, incorrect risk prioritization, and the implementation of ineffective mitigation strategies. It signifies a lack of professional rigor and a failure to gather the necessary evidence to support decision-making. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Define the scope. Clearly outline what aspects of the Maximo system and its integrations will be assessed. 2. Identify stakeholders. Involve all relevant parties including IT operations, maintenance, and end users. 3. Gather information. Collect data on current system performance, business processes, and user workflows. 4. Analyze potential impacts. Systematically identify how the upgrade might affect functionality, performance, data, security. Users. 5. Assess risks. Evaluate the likelihood and severity of identified impacts. 6. Develop mitigation strategies, plan actions to reduce or eliminate negative impacts. 7. Document findings, create a comprehensive impact assessment report. 8. Communicate and review, share the findings with stakeholders and obtain buy-in for the proposed plan. 9. Monitor and adjust, continuously track the implementation and make adjustments as needed. Question 15. The review process indicates that the IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.6 infrastructure upgrade is encountering unexpected performance degradation and intermittent connectivity issues during the final testing phase, jeopardizing the go-live date. The implementation team is proposing a series of immediate, undocumented configuration changes to address these issues, citing extreme time pressure. Option A. Proceed with the undocumented configuration changes as proposed by the implementation team, prioritizing the go-live date over formal documentation and testing to meet the immediate deadline. Option B. Halt the immediate undocumented changes, escalate the issue to senior technical leadership and the project steering committee, and initiate a formal root cause analysis to identify and document the underlying problems before proposing and implementing a controlled, tested solution. Option C. Implement a partial upgrade, deploying only the core functionalities that are currently stable, and postpone the remaining features until a later phase to mitigate the immediate risks. Option D. Defer the upgrade to a later date, citing the current technical challenges, and revisit the project scope and timeline once the team has more time to investigate the issues without external pressure. The correct answer is B. Halt the immediate undocumented changes, escalate the issue to senior technical leadership and the project steering committee, and initiate a formal root cause analysis to identify and document the underlying problems before proposing and implementing a controlled, tested solution. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the implementation team is facing pressure to deliver a critical IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.6 infrastructure upgrade within a tight deadline, while simultaneously encountering unexpected technical complexities that threaten to derail the project. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for project completion with the long-term implications of technical debt and potential security vulnerabilities introduced by rushed or incomplete solutions. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the chosen path does not compromise the integrity, security, or maintainability of the Maximo system, which is vital for asset management operations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough, documented, and risk-mitigated solution. By engaging senior technical expertise and adhering to established change management protocols, the team ensures that any deviation from the original plan is carefully evaluated for its impact on system stability, security, and compliance. This methodical approach, which involves root cause analysis, impact assessment, and a structured decision-making process, aligns with the principles of responsible IT governance and the need to maintain a secure and reliable asset management system. It demonstrates a commitment to quality and risk management, which are paramount in enterprise IT implementations. An incorrect approach that involves bypassing formal change control and implementing a quick fix without adequate testing or documentation would represent a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This could lead to unforeseen system instability, data corruption, or security breaches, all of which could have severe financial and operational consequences for the organization. Furthermore, such an approach undermines the principles of accountability and transparency in IT project management. It also fails to adhere to the implicit or explicit requirements of maintaining a secure and auditable system, which is often a regulatory expectation for critical infrastructure. Another incorrect approach, such as delaying the upgrade indefinitely due to the complexity, would also be professionally unacceptable. While risk aversion is important, complete inaction in the face of known issues and potential obsolescence is not a sustainable strategy. It can lead to increased security risks from unpatched systems and hinder the adoption of new functionalities that could improve asset management efficiency. This approach fails to demonstrate proactive problem-solving and strategic planning. The professional reasoning framework that should be used in similar situations involves a structured decision-making process. This includes 1. Clearly defining the problem and its impact. 2. Identifying all potential solutions and their associated risks and benefits. 3. Consulting with relevant stakeholders, including senior technical staff and business owners. 4. Evaluating solutions against established criteria, such as security, stability, cost, and timeline. 5. Documenting the decision-making process and the chosen solution. 6. Implementing the chosen solution with rigorous testing and change control. 7. Monitoring the implemented solution for performance and any unintended consequences. This framework ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and aligned with organizational objectives and regulatory requirements. Question 16. The analysis reveals that a critical asset management system upgrade to IBM Maximo Asset Management v7. 6. Has introduced a new set of challenges related to data integrity and user access management. A key stakeholder has expressed concern that the new system's stricter validation rules are slowing down the data entry process for maintenance technicians, leading to a backlog of critical work orders. They are proposing to temporarily disable certain data validation checks and grant broader access permissions to a wider group of users to expedite data entry and clear the backlog. What is the most appropriate course of action to address this situation while ensuring regulatory compliance and maintaining system integrity? Option A. Conduct a thorough review of the validation rules to identify any that are overly restrictive or redundant, and work with stakeholders to optimize them. Simultaneously, review user roles and permissions to ensure they align with the principle of least privilege, granting access only to the data and functions necessary for each role, and provide targeted training on the new validation procedures. Option B. Immediately disable the problematic data validation rules as requested by the stakeholder to clear the backlog of work orders, and then address the security and compliance implications at a later date once operations have normalized. Option C. Focus solely on optimizing system performance by deactivating non-essential security features and data integrity checks, as the primary goal is to ensure operational efficiency and timely completion of work orders. Option D. Grant all users administrative privileges to the system temporarily, allowing them to bypass validation rules and enter data freely until the backlog is cleared, and then revert the permissions. Correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough review of the validation rules to identify any that are overly restrictive or redundant, and work with stakeholders to optimize them. Simultaneously, review user roles and permissions to ensure they align with the principle of least privilege, granting access only to the data and functions necessary for each role, and provide targeted training on the new validation procedures. Explanation. The analysis reveals a common challenge in implementing and managing IBM Maximo Asset Management v7. 6. Infrastructure. Ensuring data integrity and security within the context of regulatory compliance. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a deep understanding of both the technical capabilities of Maximo and the specific regulatory requirements that govern asset management and data handling within the designated jurisdiction. The need to balance operational efficiency with strict adherence to these regulations necessitates careful judgment and a proactive approach to risk management. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic and documented process for data validation and access control, directly aligning with the principles of data governance and security mandated by regulatory frameworks. By implementing robust audit trails and role-based access controls, organizations demonstrate due diligence in protecting sensitive asset data and ensuring its accuracy, which is a fundamental requirement for compliance. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of data breaches, unauthorized modifications, and reporting inaccuracies, all of which can lead to significant regulatory penalties and reputational damage. An incorrect approach that involves bypassing standard data validation procedures to expedite data entry poses a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This action directly contravenes principles of data integrity and accuracy, which are foundational to most regulatory frameworks governing asset management. It increases the risk of erroneous decision-making based on flawed data, potentially leading to non-compliance with operational standards and safety regulations. Furthermore, it undermines the auditability of the system, making it difficult to trace data discrepancies and assign responsibility, which is a critical failure in any regulated environment. Another incorrect approach, such as granting broad administrative access to all users to facilitate ease of use, represents a severe security and regulatory failure. This violates the principle of least privilege, a cornerstone of data security and regulatory compliance. Unrestricted access dramatically increases the attack surface for malicious actors and accidental data corruption or deletion. It makes it impossible to maintain an accurate audit trail of who made what changes, thereby failing to meet requirements for accountability and transparency often stipulated by regulatory bodies. This lack of granular control is a direct pathway to non-compliance and potential data breaches. A third incorrect approach, focusing solely on system performance optimization without considering the implications for data security and auditability, is also professionally unacceptable. While performance is important, it cannot come at the expense of fundamental compliance requirements. Neglecting to implement necessary security controls or audit logging mechanisms in the pursuit of speed creates vulnerabilities that can lead to regulatory violations. This demonstrates a failure to understand the holistic requirements of a compliant Maximo implementation, where technical functionality must be integrated with robust security and governance practices. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough risk assessment that considers both technical and regulatory implications. This includes understanding the specific data types being managed, the potential impact of data inaccuracies or breaches, and the relevant regulatory obligations. Implementing controls should be a deliberate process, guided by established security best practices and compliance requirements, rather than an afterthought. Regular audits and reviews of access controls and data validation processes are crucial to ensure ongoing compliance and to adapt to evolving threats and regulatory landscapes. Question 17. The control framework reveals that the planned go-live for the IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.6 implementation is imminent, with a critical dependency on the seamless integration of work order generation for preventative maintenance with the existing financial system. Initial unit testing has confirmed basic data flow, but concerns remain about the accuracy and completeness of financial data passed to the legacy system during the transition. What is the most prudent approach to mitigate risks associated with this integration before full system deployment? Option A. Proceed with the full go-live as scheduled, relying on post-implementation support to address any integration issues that arise with the financial system. Option B. Implement a phased rollout strategy that includes comprehensive user acceptance testing, UAT, and a period of parallel run testing with the legacy financial system to validate data accuracy and process continuity. Option C. Defer the integration with the financial system until after the Maximo go-live, planning to address it as a separate, subsequent project phase. Option D. Halt the Maximo go-live indefinitely until all potential integration issues with the financial system are resolved through extensive technical debugging, without involving end users in the validation process. The correct answer is B. Implement a phased rollout strategy that includes comprehensive user acceptance testing, UAT, and a period of parallel run testing with the legacy financial system to validate data accuracy and process continuity. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge where a critical business process, the generation of work orders for preventative maintenance, is directly tied to the successful integration of a new asset management system, IBM Maximo v7.6, with an existing financial system. The challenge lies in ensuring data integrity and process continuity during the transition. A failure in this integration could lead to missed maintenance, impacting asset lifespan and operational efficiency, and potentially violating regulatory compliance related to asset upkeep and safety. The professional challenge is to balance the urgency of go-live with the necessity of robust testing and validation, ensuring that the integrated system accurately reflects financial commitments and operational needs without introducing new risks. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased rollout strategy with rigorous user acceptance testing, UAT, and parallel run testing. This method represents best professional practice because it systematically validates the integrated functionality of Maximo with the financial system. UAT ensures that end users, who understand the business processes and financial implications, confirm the system meets their requirements. Parallel run testing, where both the old and new systems operate concurrently for a period, allows for direct comparison of outputs and identification of discrepancies before fully decommissioning the legacy system. This approach minimizes the risk of data corruption, financial misstatement, and operational disruption, aligning with the principles of responsible system implementation and data governance, which are implicitly expected in any regulated industry where asset management is critical. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to proceed with a full go-live immediately after unit testing, assuming the integration will function correctly. This fails to account for the complexities of real-world data and user interaction, potentially leading to significant financial errors and operational downtime. Ethically, this demonstrates a disregard for due diligence and stakeholder impact, potentially violating implicit professional obligations to deliver a functional and reliable system. Another incorrect approach is to delay the go-live indefinitely due to minor integration issues discovered during initial testing, without a clear plan for resolution. This can lead to project stagnation, increased costs, and failure to realize the benefits of the new system. Professionally, it indicates a lack of decisive problem-solving and risk management, potentially impacting business objectives and stakeholder confidence. A third incorrect approach is to prioritize the Maximo go-live over the financial system integration, planning to address the integration post-launch. This creates a significant risk of financial data inaccuracies and operational paralysis, as work order generation is directly linked to financial planning and budgeting. This approach demonstrates a failure to understand the critical interdependencies of business systems and a lack of comprehensive risk assessment, which are fundamental to professional implementation practices. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to implementation. This involves identifying critical business processes and their dependencies, assessing potential failure points, and developing mitigation strategies. For system integration, a phased testing approach, including UAT and parallel runs, is crucial. Decision-making should be guided by the principle of minimizing business disruption and ensuring data integrity, with clear communication to stakeholders regarding progress, risks, and mitigation plans. When faced with integration challenges, a structured problem-solving methodology involving root cause analysis and iterative testing should be employed. Question 18. Compliance review shows that the IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.6 infrastructure has been deployed with a focus on core functionality, but security configurations and maintenance practices require further evaluation against established best practices for infrastructure and implementation. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the principles of robust and compliant Maximo v7.6 infrastructure management? Option A. Implement a comprehensive security strategy that includes role-based access controls within Maximo, data encryption for sensitive asset information, and a rigorous schedule for applying security patches and updates to the Maximo application and its underlying components. Option B. Defer non-critical security updates and patches to Maximo and its related middleware until a major system upgrade is planned, in order to minimize operational disruption and associated costs during routine maintenance periods. Option C. Establish broad user access privileges across all Maximo modules to ensure maximum operational flexibility and to avoid user complaints about restricted access, with the understanding that security policies can be enforced through user training. Option D. Rely primarily on network-level security measures, such as firewalls and intrusion detection systems, to protect the Maximo environment, assuming that internal application security is adequately covered by these external controls. The correct answer is A. Implement a comprehensive security strategy that includes role-based access controls within Maximo, data encryption for sensitive asset information, and a rigorous schedule for applying security patches and updates to the Maximo application and its underlying components. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT infrastructure management, balancing the need for robust security and compliance with operational efficiency and cost-effectiveness. The challenge lies in interpreting and applying the specific requirements of the C2010-530 IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.6 infrastructure and implementation framework, which implicitly guides best practices for system deployment and maintenance. The core difficulty is ensuring that security measures, while necessary, do not unduly hinder the system's primary function of asset management or introduce unnecessary complexity and cost. The correct approach prioritizes a layered security strategy that is integrated into the Maximo v7.6 6. Infrastructure from the outset, aligning with the principle of security by design. This involves implementing access controls, data encryption, and regular security patching as fundamental components of the system's architecture, rather than as afterthoughts. This proactive stance is crucial for meeting the implicit compliance expectations of a framework like C2010-530, which emphasizes a secure and reliable operational environment. By focusing on these integrated security measures, the organization ensures that the Maximo system is not only functional but also resilient against potential threats, thereby safeguarding sensitive asset data and maintaining operational continuity. This aligns with the professional responsibility to implement systems that are both effective and secure, minimizing risk and ensuring long-term viability. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on external security measures, such as perimeter firewalls, fails to address internal vulnerabilities and the security of data within the Maximo application itself. This creates a false sense of security and leaves the system exposed to insider threats or compromised credentials. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes cost savings by deferring security updates and patches neglects the critical need for timely vulnerability management. This directly contravenes best practices for maintaining system integrity and can lead to significant security breaches, data loss, and reputational damage, all of which are implicitly discouraged by the need for a stable and compliant infrastructure. A third incorrect approach that implements overly restrictive access controls without proper justification can cripple user productivity and hinder legitimate asset management activities. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of the operational requirements of Maximo and can lead to workarounds that bypass security, ultimately weakening the overall security posture. The professional decision-making process in such situations requires a thorough understanding of the specific framework's objectives, a risk-based assessment of potential threats, and a balanced consideration of security, operational, and financial factors. It involves engaging with stakeholders to understand their needs and concerns, and then designing and implementing solutions that meet compliance requirements while enabling efficient system use. Question 19. During the evaluation of a new integration partner for an IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.6 system, the project manager is tasked with defining the access controls for the partner's technical team. The integration involves critical asset maintenance data, and the organization operates under strict data privacy regulations. The partner requires access to specific modules and data points to configure and test their integration solution. What is the most appropriate approach to granting this access? Option A. Provide the integration partner's team with full administrative privileges across the entire Maximo environment to ensure they have the flexibility to perform all necessary configurations and testing without delays. Option B. Accept the integration partner's verbal assurance of their robust internal security protocols and grant them broad access based on their self-assessment. Option C. Defer all access for the integration partner until a complete organization-wide security audit is finalized, which is projected to take several months. Option D. Grant the integration partner's team read-only access to all relevant modules and data points, with a clear escalation path for any necessary write access, contingent on a documented business justification and security review. Correct answer is D. Grant the integration partner's team read-only access to all relevant modules and data points, with a clear escalation path for any necessary write access, contingent on a documented business justification and security review. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to data security and compliance within the context of IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.6 implementation. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need for efficient system access for a new integration partner with the stringent regulatory requirements for data protection and access control. The chosen jurisdiction for this exam is implied to be one that emphasizes robust data privacy and security standards, aligning with common global best practices for enterprise software implementations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a phased, controlled, and auditable method for granting access. This aligns with the principle of least privilege, ensuring that the integration partner only receives the minimum necessary permissions to perform their tasks. Furthermore, it incorporates a review and approval process, which is a cornerstone of good governance and compliance. This approach directly addresses potential regulatory failures by demonstrating due diligence in safeguarding sensitive asset data, preventing unauthorized access, and maintaining an audit trail. An incorrect approach that involves granting broad administrative access without proper vetting or segmentation fails to adhere to data protection regulations. Such an action would create significant security vulnerabilities, making the organization susceptible to data breaches and noncompliance penalties. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for the responsibility to protect client and operational data. Another incorrect approach, which is to delay granting any access until a comprehensive, long-term security audit is completed, while seemingly cautious, can be professionally detrimental. This can lead to significant project delays, impacting business operations and potentially violating contractual obligations with the integration partner. While security is paramount, an overly rigid approach that cripples project progress without a clear risk-benefit analysis is not best practice. It suggests a lack of understanding of project management principles and the need for pragmatic risk mitigation. A third incorrect approach, which is to rely solely on the integration partner's self-attestation of their security practices without independent verification, is a critical failure. This abdicates the organization's responsibility to ensure compliance and protect its data. It is a direct violation of due diligence requirements and exposes the organization to significant legal and reputational risks. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a risk-based assessment. This includes identifying the data involved, the potential impact of unauthorized access, and the specific requirements of the integration. Subsequently, a tiered approach to access control should be designed, starting with the most restrictive permissions and gradually expanding them as trust and verification are established. Regular audits, clear communication with all parties, and adherence to established security policies and regulatory frameworks are essential components of this process. Question 20. Process analysis reveals that the IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.6 infrastructure is due for a significant upgrade to address security vulnerabilities and introduce new features. The implementation team is considering two primary upgrade strategies: a direct in-place upgrade of the production environment with minimal downtime, or a phased approach involving a parallel environment for testing and a staged rollout to production. Which approach best aligns with professional best practices for managing critical asset management systems? Option A. Defer the upgrade until a future maintenance window, accepting the current security risks and feature limitations to avoid any potential disruption to ongoing operations. Option B. Conduct the upgrade during a scheduled maintenance window, but bypass the creation of a separate test environment, performing only basic functional tests on the production system immediately after the upgrade. Option C. Proceed with a direct in-place upgrade of the production environment, prioritizing minimal downtime by skipping extensive testing in a separate environment and relying on immediate post-upgrade checks. Option D. Implement a phased upgrade strategy, establishing a separate, fully functional test environment that mirrors production for comprehensive validation, followed by a staged rollout to production with a defined rollback plan. The correct answer is C. Proceed with a direct in-place upgrade of the production environment, prioritizing minimal downtime by skipping extensive testing in a separate environment and relying on immediate post-upgrade checks. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT infrastructure management where a critical system, IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.6, requires an upgrade. The professional challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for enhanced functionality and security patches with the potential risks of disruption, data integrity issues, and unforeseen compatibility problems during the upgrade process. A hasty or poorly planned upgrade can lead to significant operational downtime, financial losses, and reputational damage. Therefore, a structured and risk-aware approach is paramount. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough evaluation of the existing environment, potential upgrade paths, and the business impact. This aligns with general IT governance principles and the implicit requirement for responsible system management, which is often underpinned by regulatory frameworks that mandate system availability, data security, and business continuity. Specifically, for a system like Maximo, which manages critical assets, ensuring minimal disruption and maintaining data integrity during an upgrade is a core responsibility. A phased rollout, comprehensive testing, and robust rollback plans are essential to mitigate risks and ensure a successful transition, thereby upholding professional standards of diligence and care. An incorrect approach that bypasses thorough testing and rollback planning would represent a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Such an approach disregards the potential for data corruption or loss, which could violate data protection regulations, e.g., GDPR if applicable to the jurisdiction. Though not specified here, the principle of data integrity is universal. It also fails to uphold the ethical obligation to protect the organization's assets and operational continuity. Ignoring compatibility checks with existing integrations or customizations can lead to system failures, impacting business operations and potentially violating service-level agreements, SLAs, or contractual obligations. Furthermore, a lack of a rollback plan demonstrates a failure to adequately prepare for adverse outcomes, which is unprofessional and potentially negligent. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic risk assessment. This includes identifying potential upgrade paths, evaluating their feasibility and associated risks, and understanding the business impact of each. A key step is to define clear testing criteria and execute comprehensive testing in a non-production environment that mirrors the production setup as closely as possible. Developing a detailed rollback strategy, including data backups and procedures for reverting to the previous version, is crucial. Communication with stakeholders throughout the process is also vital to manage expectations and ensure alignment. Finally, a phased deployment, starting with a pilot group or non-critical components, allows for real-world validation before a full rollout.